This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
I'm curious about the psychological footprints we leave behind us wherever we go. How we are with ourselves and others is exactly how the world will be, and that matters. Valeria interviews Lynda Hoffman. She is a professional certified coach, PCC, with the International Coaching Federation, ICF. She coaches ambitious business professionals with or without ADHD who want to create meaningful personal and organizational change. Lynda partners with clients to increase their personal agency and strategic decision-making. Her extensive experience in the fields of executive functioning and mindfulness training supports clients in understanding how their brain functioning informs their behavior and how to create sustainable change. Lynda is trained in Harvard's Immunity to Change model and body-mind modalities. She encourages her clients to do the deeper work towards transformation and a more liberated way of being. Meet Lynda at lindahoffman.com. Here's the interview with Lynda Hoffman.
In your own words, who is Lynda Hoffman?
Lynda Hoffman is, on the surface, a life coach who is serving clients all over the world, professionals who have ADHD, as well as executives and professionals who don't have ADHD. Anybody who loves and values the personal journey to go deeper, to be the better part of themselves. That's the surface. If you're asking me who I am, that's always such a deeper question, and I'm careful about what I want to share because identity is so important. But one thing I will tell you is I live in Canada, in Quebec, and inside who I am is somebody who's very curious. I love making links, and I believe that life is meant to be a learning experience all the way to the end.
Wow. That's another powerful topic that I resisted for so long. Lessons to learn, right? I agree. Now I have to say wholeheartedly yes to the concept of learning lessons. Yeah. Why ADHD, Lynda? Why working with people with ADHD?
I came to it personally. I didn't know anything about it until I realized that both my children were affected by it. And when I investigated what they needed and I learned what it was about, I recognized my husband had it. Yeah. And I recognized also that the impact of untreated ADHD could be devastating and that needed to be understood in a way that was not understood at the time. And that would have been 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Yes. And so that became passionate for me also because I started noticing when I was doing work in the school system that my children were not alone. There were a lot of students who were struggling with their executive functions, the brain-based skills for showing what you know. And it seemed to me that the school system was failing profoundly in helping students learn.
Right. Wow. So yeah, you've been affected by it. It's very close to you. So that makes a lot of sense coming from experience. And for those who don't know, because that was actually new to me as well, about probably 3 years ago, I found out and I interviewed some people about the topic. But for those who don't know, who come across this podcast interview, what is ADHD?
ADHD is in the, this is a very technical term, in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for psychiatric disorders, but it isn't.
Right.
It is a neurological, neurodevelopmental delay that impacts executive functioning. So in other words, your prefrontal cortex, which is the seat of all of your ability to execute what you know, is impaired. You know what to do, you just can't do it in the time that you want to do it. It's organizing, planning, prioritizing, following through, modulating behavior in relationships, remembering things. It's actually I know it is the single biggest predictor of success is how well your executive functions are doing.
Right. And what is the cause for it? Do you know the main causes?
They don't really know. They're still trying to figure out what makes the gene express, but it is genetic. It's considered the most heritable of all disorders and the most treatable.
Yes. Okay. So that's interesting. I see that with in medical science, so many illnesses are not the diagnoses usually are unknown. I remember interviewing so many people here, and it's so much more frustrating for them not to have a cause, because now you don't know what to do if there isn't a cause. So I'm curious to know, how do you guide your clients to navigate through their, with their careers and professional lives with ADHD? This is a question for later, but I guess I already asked the question now.
Yeah. We start exactly where they are. When they come to me, there's something that prompted them to call me. And often they'll say, "Oh, Lynda, I was thinking about reaching out to you 2 or 3 years ago, but they kept putting it off because they thought maybe I can do this on my own." Right. And when they come, the first thing we do is look at what brought them there.
Yes.
It might have been they received feedback from their boss that was very difficult to hear, or from their colleagues. I've worked with lawyers who were literally under their desk, closed the door, under their desk. They don't want to talk to somebody because they haven't logged their hours. I've worked with doctors during the COVID pandemic who were on the front lines and were so busy and in crisis mode for a year, they didn't bill for a year.
Wow.
So we start there. What is it that you most want to change, most want to experience in your life? And from there, we build. They bring their topics, and the conversations we have are very reflective, very deep. They're inside, how they're perceiving of themselves, and they're also outside. Wow. What are they putting in place outside of themselves to help themselves remember what it is they need to do, or to cue them as to how and who they want to be in those moments?
So that's the topic of identity, the concept, the idea of identity, which is a huge one. Have you seen throughout your professional experience as a coach, this transition, the movement between having the ADHD symptoms and then fully recovering from it?
I don't know that there's such a thing as fully recovering.
Right.
It's something you live with the rest of your life.
Okay.
What we're looking for is functionality. Are you able to function at the level of your intelligence?
Right.
And I would say that's for everybody, isn't it? That
yes, it is.
We all want to function at our best, to become who we are, to express that, to create that. Yeah. And with ADHD, the actual execution of that is where things get tripped up. So I'm thinking of one client in particular. Yeah. He's a good example. When he came to me, he described himself as, I'm putting in air quotes, successful executive in London, England. He had this beautiful office on the 30th floor overlooking the Thames. And he was really unhappy in his work. He had just been diagnosed at 42 with ADHD. And he said, I need time management. And he was so upset that that was the goal he was bringing, because in his mind, that was remedial. He said, even elementary school students know how to do this, and I don't know how to do it.
Right. Right.
But 6 months later, he told me that was the first time in his life he had ever felt happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And that's another, when we think about it, that's really the goal, or perhaps we grow into it, isn't it? I don't think happiness is something that, I don't think as a goal, but I think the more we grow and the more we learn about ourselves, especially, the happier we become. So that makes a lot of sense to me, what you say.
And I think, too, to add to that, part of that process is cleaning up all of the thoughts inside that make us unhappy,
right,
that are not accurate,
right,
that are taking up space and convincing us of things that actually are not true.
Yes. That's a big one. Yeah, that's huge. I read on your website something that caught my attention. I have here. You say, about yourself, I am curious about the psychological footprints we leave behind us wherever we go. How we are with ourselves and others is exactly how the world will be, and that matters. What a beautiful concept. Again, I love concepts and I love messages and wisdom. This is grounded in wisdom. So what's not to love about that? I'm almost I'm devotional about it. That's kind of funny to acknowledge. It's almost like seeing God when I find wisdom. So thank you for saying that. But then unpacking this idea of knowing ourselves. What is the first step for those baby steps here for those who are beginning on that journey?
Of knowing themselves?
Of knowing oneself and knowing what makes us happy and, our talents, exploring them.
I think the first step is to get out of our own way.
Right.
We can't know our talents if we're focused on what we think are our flaws. And so a big part of my work is to remind my clients that over 80% of our thoughts are automatic and negative. It's just the way the brain works. That we get hooked and distracted by that.
Yeah.
So to get to know ourselves means we really have to get under that and to touch the reality that as human beings, we're wired to learn. We're wired to grow.
And that's what the question that comes to mind is it seems like the brain is, in a way, it focuses so much on negativity, and that's true. So I have heard before that this is because our the way the body's wired, right, for survival. So we want to survive here in this reality. So basically is what you said before. So it's about learning. So is that through negativity or through adversities that we learn? Is that what the brain's trying to do? Teach us the more, let's say, even negativity in itself, thoughts would be the barrier, right, to happiness, to growth. So do you think that that's almost a game of the design of being human? I'm wondering.
I think it's just a reflection of the fact that we've evolved, our lifestyles have evolved, and we needed that negative thinking to keep us safe.
Right.
And for the most part, we're not going to die in our day-to-day.
Yeah.
But our egos are there to protect us, so they're on high alert for whatever might embarrass us, make us feel bad, or endanger us in any way. That's its job, and it's necessary. We just also, especially when our executive functioning is working very well, and we have the courage to do so, and this is where self-awareness comes in, we get to lean into that part of ourselves that's aware that we are more than those thoughts.
Right.
It's that part of us that will guide the ship, so to speak.
Yes. Yes, that really resonates true to me from my own experience dealing with negativity, because I went through a lot of trauma in childhood and all. Learning that lesson had to do a lot of with creating courage, the courage to change my environment and some people and circumstances and all those things that, in a way, they were the trigger, but they didn't have to be. So I think we can be triggered by so many things, but we don't have to put ourselves in the situation where we are constantly being triggered to be defensive or defend ourselves or fight for our safety. So I guess I learned that, or I'm learning that still, I guess, too. I have to say here, in a vulnerable way. I'm still learning. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you got your finger on something very, very important, which is we have a choice not to put ourselves in situations that are triggering and harmful to us. It's not necessarily going to make us stronger to keep putting ourselves into a situation where we're undermined, disrespected, for example, living in persistent chaos. We get to choose.
Wow, Lynda. Yeah, thank you for saying that. Something in me has to listen to that message, because I'm a student of Vedanta, which is it's a philosophical, spiritual philosophy, really, from India. It's a Hindu philosophy that's really beautiful. But I think I have been, well, this is not a therapy here or a coaching session, but I have been trying to find the big picture of life where I can feel safe in that dimension and not really have to learn the lessons and, slowly in a body, mindly way. And then, some people call that spiritual bypass. And I wonder how much of that I have done. And, recently, for some reason, I guess after the hurricane, I live in Florida and we had the hurricanes here. I live in Tampa Bay. Wow, that just activated so much fear that I was not aware of. And I don't even know how much of that fear was mine, really. Well, I was just kind of observing from around me, my environment too. So that's probably another subject for another topic, for another podcast interview. But going back to the idea of the ego and the soul journey. So I guess it ties in with that. What is your idea of spirituality and what is the soul?
My idea of spirituality, such big questions. Spirit to me is something that is bigger than personality, bigger than, I would say it's an energetic field. For me, I'm speaking for myself, nobody else.
Right.
That it feels like an energetic field outside the body, around the body, all of us. It's the thing that connects us to the bigger picture. I do believe all human beings are connected at a soul level. Yeah. When one person's suffering, everybody suffers, whether they're aware of it or not. And I do see the soul as energy. I don't know whether you've ever watched someone die close to you, but I watched my dad die during COVID, and it was on Zoom because of COVID. And I remember, I will never forget this. I could see his face very clearly. And it was as if there was something pulling up through his body, up through his throat, and it got stuck at that moment around his face, as if he was holding his breath for a moment. And I said, just go, it's okay. And I could literally see it. It went whoosh out of his body, which was, I actually saw it. So cool.
What a gift.
So, I believe the soul exists. We can't see it most of the time, but we feel it. And because we can't see it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yes. Yes, gosh, you just got me. A pause for, it's almost like honoring the, the sacredness of it. gosh, Lynda, it made me cry. You didn't make me cry, but yes. Yeah. And it feels to me that we've been either suppressing or not having enough courage to come from the soul. And what you said is really powerful about one of the qualities of the soul being when one suffers, everyone suffers, because everything's interconnected. We are not separate from life itself, from the universe, from life, God. So that's a powerful, it's not a concept. To me, it's truth with capital T. So because like when you say, I saw it. And I know you saw it. I don't know how I know it, but it's just my heart opens and like, oh, yes, that's beautiful. And one of the things that I've been through a lot of trauma, and it had to do with being very submissive and saying yes to everything, no boundaries, and suffering so much because of it at the level of the body mind, which I have been asking for forgiveness to all parts of me throughout life who just let people abuse her. But then at the same time, I know how those parts of me have touched others in a very powerful way. So in a way, it's almost like surrendering yourself to life, not even worrying how much, because the body is not what we are. We are not the body or the mind, even as you said beautifully about thoughts. So I don't know. It's such a contradiction, and it's a paradox in a way. We are supposed to choose and protect ourselves at the same time. We are here in this situation where the world feels chaotic right now for some reason, and we're all in this together. And why not just surrender to it and see what happens? And it's not even trust; it's really surrendering. But how do you feel about that?
Oh gosh, it's opening up so much for me. Yeah. Everybody around me is asking the exact question. How do we be with all this chaos, uncertainty, and everything feels life-threatening?
Yes, right.
In places where we used to feel safe, we don't feel safe anymore.
Right.
And this has been going on for a number of years. It's not recent.
Right.
And and when you're saying surrendering to life, yes, we surrender to life, and I believe we need to take action for life.
Yes, right.
That respects life, that respects our humanity.
Yeah.
Surrender does not mean being passive.
Right.
And this is where, when we understand our minds and how they work and how our souls work and where the role of the soul is to help inform our actions and how we see ourselves, then we can change the world.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And then you're speaking to me in a way, and hopefully everybody who is listening to this. So going back to your work, for those who perhaps don't believe in the soul, how do you go about expressing these ideas to them? These fundamental concepts. I'm wondering.
Great question, because I work with some people who are engineers. They're theoretical mathematicians. They are very much grounded in the here and now.
Yeah.
The way we talk about it is very slowly starting where they are, what their experience is, and asking them questions that elicit in them an awareness that there's something more.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There's something more. They can't name what it is. They may not have language for it, but they know there's something they're leaning towards, something that is calling them.
Right.
And when we have a conversation about how they identify and what they're assuming other people see in them, what they assume they are, and link that with the actions they take, then they see what an impact their thinking has on their actions, and that underneath that, there's something else. They may not name it, but they are aware there's something else, and they may not call it a soul.
Yeah.
that awareness is enough.
Yes. So it doesn't have to have a name. You don't have to mention the word soul, God, spirit, none of that. Yes, I love.
Well, I might say, some people would call that the
Yeah.
soul. Some people would call that energy. What would you like to call?
Yes. Yeah, you leave up to them. Wow, what a beautiful. What's not to love about your work as a coach, as a guide? To me, that's what really the word comes to me, as a guide. What about fear, Lynda? I know we have so many of them. A lot of them are, it feels to me like some of them are hidden and we are just uncovering them as we go in life. We can't see the big picture of fear either, unless we live it. So how do you see fear? What is, does fear have a message or a meaning? Do they always have a message and meaning? Or
they don't always have a message and meaning.
Right.
Sometimes fear is just fear and it's not very helpful, but fear is intelligent. All of our feelings are intelligent and we need them. But again, this is where our higher order awareness, higher order thinking is so important, because we want to get curious about what we're believing that is causing this fear. And also, more importantly, what does the fear need? It's not that the fear is real. Often it's not.
Right.
But we want to get to what's fueling it and then inquire about what it actually needs. And this is where the loving and the self-soothing and the soul work comes in. Yeah. Because a lot of us as children, we're not parented in a way where we learned what it is to feel unconditionally supported when life feels really terrifying.
Right.
We have to learn how to do that.
Yes. Wow. Do you suggest meditation as one of the practices, daily practices?
I do. I think mindfulness as one is very important so that we become aware of thoughts. Yeah. Watching things neutrally without judgment as much as possible in order to keep us from being in a fight, flight, freeze response, a reactive response. Right. It is a very helpful practice. And it doesn't need to take a long time, even if it's 5 minutes a day or even 60 seconds to just take a moment, breathe, and focus on the body.
Yes. Wow, that's a big one. Yeah, I try to do that every day in so many different ways. I also do active meditation. In a sense, everywhere that I go, it's basically being present when it's active. So I'm just present with what is present here. So the thoughts are not somewhere else, if it's here within this conversation. The interesting thing is it feels like when we become present, meaning just focus on what's here, then everything else disappears. It's interesting. There's no more. Yeah, it's almost like the world becomes like this faded background. And it's fascinating to see how reality works, right? And what's real and what's not, just by kind of being attentive to what is here. It has been said in spirituality, a lot of spiritual teachers say that only this moment exists, nothing else exists. It's a powerful idea, isn't it? If we really kind of embody that wisdom, and we are here now. But then it also requires that surrendering again, because sometimes I feel like the body or the mind, it wants to do something that I never thought about. Then it's like, where did this come from? And then it just does it. And then the only thing I can do is just to surrender to it and not judge it, and not even and also watch the consequences. Be responsible for whatever happens after that. So it's courage too. I don't know. It feels that way.
What comes up for me as I'm hearing you say that is the tension between being present and our humanity that pulls us off track.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
We know enough to know that being present is everything. I mean, in the present, we can make better choices. We're not suffering to the degree that we might otherwise, but the habit is to follow the thoughts or to get busy doing things.
Yeah.
And that just is the way we are as human beings.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. You're just kind of it's very clear. Yeah. I love your clarity. Yes. So it's being human, divine at the same time. And I heard that before too. Somebody said beautifully here, is being fully human and fully divine, like both at the same time. Wow, easy said than done. To embrace both without any judgment and just let it flow. It's wow. And I wonder if that's the evolution of being human. Do you think that this is? Do you have a vision for what would that look like? To be fully human, fully divine.
A vision for fully human, fully divine. I think that divinity in human beings is about potential.
Yeah.
And my sense is that as a species, the more we grow into self-soothing, self-awareness, self-knowledge, and at the same time being committed to the larger community, seeing how we're connected at a soul level, that can only help shift the way our brains work and the way we show up. We're still really in the dark ages, I think, in terms of how our psyches work.
Yeah.
But there is so much more awareness, more loving, despite what it might feel like from day to day sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. Wow, that's a beautiful vision and picture. I was just trying to visualize that, which is, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that you just said that, because you're coming from a place of timeless wisdom, as I call it. It's knowing without knowing, but knowing at the same time and expressing. It's just truly beautiful. Yes, that's one of the things that has been a guiding principle for me as a soul message. Yes, doing whatever you do, decision you make, it's something that's good for this here, the body, mind, and then for your family, and then for the community, and then for the world at large. Our environment, of course, everything's included. So yes, that makes a lot of sense that we might be evolving to get to that place. And, I talk to a lot of people and I get different, let's say, perspectives. And then some people say, there's no hope anymore. We're just destroying ourselves and the planet. That's it. That's a mess. And some people, they're very hopeful that this will change. I don't know. Where are you in that? You said the dark. Yeah.
I actually believe in neuroplasticity. I do believe our brains change based on what we do and what we think. Yeah. And I'm worried about the climate. I'm very worried about our political culture. I'm very concerned about education and what people know or what they think they know. I'm very concerned about those things. But I also believe that our brains will change over time the more we feed them what they need. And move away from that natural inclination to be in fear all the time and to stoke that fear.
Yes. There's something that, because my focus when it comes to human evolution or soul evolution or spirituality at depth, it's always my reference is Vedanta, which is based on the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. So, but that's because their view, it's very, it's a very different one in the sense that basically everything that we are experiencing here is just stories. So we keep creating. It seems like the brain's doing that. I have heard scientists saying that, and you are alluring to that. So the brain is evolving in a sense of storytelling, because it's a storytelling machine, isn't it? So is that what it is, really? In a way, we are just we have to create a better story, perhaps teach the brain to create better stories.
I'm thinking about that because we create stories so that we can understand what's going on.
Right.
And this is where it's very important what we feed our brains.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that we can train our brains to tell stories that are more accurate, more loving, more in reality than they might otherwise be. And it's a skill. It's not easy to learn,
right.
but it is learnable.
Yes.
I really do believe that.
God, is that something that you also talk to your clients? Is that something that's part of your coaching strategies to create better stories? Or writing is a great way of doing that, kind of the way we are seeing the world, right?
I had a client this morning, as a matter of fact, who we both at the same time came to this epiphany that the best thing he can do on his vacation was to journal. And then the question was about what? And he was going to go on about all the things he doesn't like or the negativity, and he was going to rehearse it and get in there. And I said, well,
yes,
if you want to grow that, go ahead. But what if you spent that time writing, journaling, reflecting on what's possible, on what you're grateful for, on what makes it worthwhile to be here, what more you want to expand into?
Yes, writing is a powerful tool. It really, really is. Another point that comes to mind, it goes back in a way to fear. So I have, because again, the brain is wired for survivor. So that's that gets in the way every time, because every time we think about possibilities and, living a life that's more in alignment with the hearts and with the soul, and then something happens and blocks everything. A part of our let's say, our dream time. We have kind of stepped away from imagination, from daydreaming even. I noticed that how we have become so obsessed with rational thinking, but not just that, connected to survival again. How to pay the bills, how to do, always survive. Even, I noticed even like, my husband and I would go to the gym and we meet a lot of people in the fitness industry. I was in the fitness industry for so long. Seems like everything we do, everything we eat, all the supplements we take, it's all about trying to stop death. And we're just afraid to die. And that's why it seems like we are making our decisions, our choices from that place. And that's, and I don't know how we can get out of that idea. I know a lot of people have done that. Artists are very good at it, right? As you know, they just kind of do exactly what they want to do, and they take chances. And but of course, it's not something that we want everyone to do. Become artists or become what's the other word? Adventurers or adrenaline seekers that jump a cliff and all those things. But there's something about dancing with fear, and it's almost like befriending fear. That's what I'm kind of getting the message more and more and more. Instead of it's not just pushing away or even trying to ignore it, but it's not just becoming more courageous, but actually feeling fear, just the energy of fear without fear, in a way.
Exactly. I love the way you say that, without fear.
Yes.
Just pay attention to the fear. It's not my fear, it's the fear. This is universal. It's here.
Yes.
One of the things I'll ask myself sometimes, is that fear talking? Yeah. Is that me, or is that fear?
Yeah.
And what's wise about that right now? If nothing, then it's okay. It's okay. And I like what you said about not pushing it away.
Right.
Because as soon as we do push with anything, we get resistance.
Yes.
And the fear is going to push back.
Yeah.
Until it gets what it needs, which in most cases is just a lot of reassurance.
Gosh.
And I do find it, I also value what you said about noticing so much of what we do is based on fear.
Yes.
And yet we are leading the safest lives ever in human evolution.
Yes.
But you're right. Most of what
Mm.
we do, we're afraid of. We're afraid that if we eat that, we get cancer. If we drink too much of this, or we do that, or get hit by a car,
Yes.
it's, yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, it's something that supports life as well. So you're saying fear.
Yes. And I
Mm.
think this is where the role of ritual comes in. When we bring the sacred in, it's like an antidote.
Mm. Yeah.
It puts a pause in the struggle to be alive and to remember the sacred in those moments. What makes this important to be here?
Yes, I love that. Yeah, I have my hands together. Yes, a prayer to that. It's really namaste to the wisdom that's it's there. That's kind of in alignment with that, the timeless, the infinite that is here. Thank you, Lynda. Thank you for your beautiful presence in our reality, doing what you do, what you're called to do, in a very skillful and clear and compassionate way. It's almost like bridging the science and spirituality. That's how I'm seeing you. So it seems like we need that too, because of course we need that because there's a lot of people who still trust more science than spirituality. They will listen to that, although it's the same message. But yeah, we need different voices. Thank
Thank you for that. I had a client say that I was the business analyst for the soul.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Lovely. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Beautiful. So we almost at the end. I don't want to let you go, but I want to let's see. I know you. I want to mention your services. I have them here. So coaching, executive coaching, ADHD coaching, mind body integration, masterclass, and then you also offer coaching packages, 6 months or a year. And then I went to the masterclass, and oh yeah, did I miss anything, Lynda?
No, that's it. Leadership coaching.
Leadership coaching had that as well. So, leadership, God, that's another big one, right? Idea of being somebody who leads others. So, what is your suggestion, or not even suggestions? Let me see if I can phrase that. What are the main qualities of a leader? A true leader,
Someone who
say.
knows themselves supremely well.
Yes, I expected to that beautiful answer.
And
Yes.
that they've got a sense of control. Their self-management. They know, they run that ship.
Mm.
They are aware of themselves. They know what they're good at. They know where things are challenging. They're able to empathize with others and extrapolate from their own experience what vulnerability feels like. They know how to lead by drawing out from others what's great about them. Those are the big ones.
We wish to see politicians, right?
Oh, yes.
Like that. How amazing. So I want to mention your website too. So LyndaHoffman.com. I'll have that link. Will be clickable, so it's easier on the podcast notes. But before we say goodbye for today, I want to thank you again for your beautiful presence in our world. And the last question is about freedom. What is freedom to you? What makes you feel free?
That's a beautiful question. Love. Love makes me feel free. When I feel loving and loved, I'm connected, and I can do anything, be anything. Wow. I'm present. I have everything I need.
Yes, it's beautiful to hear. I love hearing the answer about love. I get that all the time, when I ask about the question about 3 things that you would like anyone to experience before they die. And I hear that over and over again. Love, love, love is always the first one. Almost every time, the first thing. And today I was reflecting about that. I have this a quote from Buddha on my door, this recording that my sacred space, that says, at the end, only 3 things really mattered. How much you loved, how graceful you lived your life, how gentle you lived your life, and how You let go of things that are not meant for you. So paraphrasing Buddha. So, and for some reason, I was looking at the word love. The first one, how much you loved. It never said how much you loved or was loved. It didn't say it that way. It was just how much you loved. So I kind of paused because I guess I never felt loved by my parents or by my husbands. I had 3. But there's something about universal love. It's not a personal one that has always been fulfilling to me. It felt, that's when I feel whole, complete, and then it's free. So it's universal love that kind of came to me as almost like as a message. Yeah, don't worry, you don't have to be loved as a person because you're already loved energetically, universally. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. I just want to mention that as
It's a beautiful reflection. And what comes to mind is, and I'm not a practicing Christian, but I would say grace. That we receive that loving simply because we exist.
Yes, yeah. And maybe that's the one that I always wanted to tap into it. And I've always been seeking for spiritual knowledge and teachings to find that. How do I access that? And it's very curious to see that I still don't know the connection between that universal love, divine love, and the human experience. It's almost like it doesn't really matter in a way if they are connected or not, because they just are, and you don't have to do anything to tap into it. It's already here.
But that's the thing that we struggle with. I think we have to earn it. We have to do something.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just there.
Yes, right. It's been always here. Right. Yeah. Gosh, I had to say that. Thank you for being this beautiful listener too. And we'll talk again. So I would love to be in touch, of course. But take good care of yourself, Lynda, for now, and we'll be in touch again.
You too. This was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Lynda Hoffman and her work, please visit lindahoffman.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.